Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for Agent Carter, Season 1, Episode 4, The Blitzkrieg button. And now, I'm going to say something about the show. I've really liked it. I haven't really been into the story, though. I liked it, but I think it's a very good show. I just haven't really been as into the story as I should be. But this episode got me into the story. I loved this episode. By far, best episode of the season. And at this point, I really feel like it's just going to get better and better as it goes on, which I think is great because I really want it to. I want it to get better and better as it goes on. It seems like now it is, and I love that about the show. So let's just get to this episode because it was a great episode, and I loved it. And I really liked some of the stuff we found out in this episode. One thing that we did not find out in this episode that I did find out that I'm going to talk about. It's a little bit of a spoiler, so I'll let you know when that part comes up, but let's just get to it. So we start off at a rail yard, and two smugglers are working for Mink tell Jarvis that he'll get the package when they get their money, and as their friend stands guard outside, Peggy takes them all out. Inside, the smugglers demand another $100,000 for their silence, and Jarvis tells them he only has $50,000, and he hits a secret trigger on the case, hands it over. When one of the smugglers opens it, he's gassed unconscious, and Peggy arrives and knocks out the other one, and they go by a nearby rail car containing the package. Howard playing pool, and he figures that Mink would hold them up for more money, and figured Jarvis and Peggy could take care of the smugglers, and then knocks an approaching one out with a pool ball. So they drive through town. Peggy wonders why Howard took the risk of coming back to the city. As they approach Howard's penthouse, Peggy has Jarvis pull over and points out two SSR agents watching the building. She has Jarvis drive off, and Howard says that nobody knew that he owned the building. Peggy warns him that the SSR will uncover all of his accounts and corporations, and reluctantly gives Jarvis directions to the Griffith, and Howard knows about the place and Miriam. Peggy and Howard sneak in through the basement, and this episode focused a lot more on Howard Stark, which I really like because I don't think we've seen enough of his character. I really wanted to see more of his character, and finally tonight we saw more of his character, which I really like because, I mean, the central plot of the show is focusing around him, and we need to see more of him. So I liked this episode. We finally did see more of Howard Stark because we do need to see more of him. So I liked this episode that, yeah, we did see more of Howard Stark, which I thought was very good. So, as they drive through town, I just read this. Peggy and Howard sneak in through the basement, and she sends him in the dumbwaiter. And Miriam comes in and complains about the hours that Peggy keeps as a telephone operator. Peggy claims that she was doing her laundry. Miriam insists on escorting her to her room. And at SSR, Roger shows Jack a report on the Battle of Finno, where Brannis allegedly died, and it's redacted, and the general responsible died a month ago. As for Green Suit's typewriter, the lab techs have confirmed that it sends signals, and Roger says that Colonel Ernst Muller led the Nazi regiment that overrun Brannis and his man and is scheduled for execution in 2 days, and the SSR head is going to Germany to find out what Muller knows, and leaves Jack in charge until he returns. So Miriam escorts Peggy to her door and assures her that she'll protect her from her own impulses. The landlady reminds her about her laundry in the dumbwaiter and is surprised when there's actually laundry inside. And once Miriam leaves, Peggy looks into the dumbwaiter shaft, but hears one of the girls, Lorraine, laughing in her room. Realizing who she's entertaining, Peggy knocks on the door and Howard comes out. And I thought that was really funny there. He's saying that Peggy's his cousin, and in Peggy's apartment, Peggy gets ready for work while Howard explains that he's heading for Rio in 3 days and wants to know what the SSR has obtained, and she wonders why Jarvis isn't there, and Howard shows her a camera pen that he bought her. And I loved the banter between Howard and Peggy in this episode. It was very fun to watch. I really enjoyed seeing that. And something I'm looking forward that I hope we get more of in future episodes because I really love their banter and I want to see more Howard Stark. I really like his character and I really love their banter, definitely. So, Peggy arrives at work. Jack calls... excuse me. Jack calls everyone over, reminds them about Ray's death, and he says that none of them will be resting until they find the killers. Calls them into his office one at a time for their assignments. Daniel tells Peggy that he's going to Sousza tells Peggy that he's going to the public phone that the anonymous caller used, hoping he'll get some prints. Before he can go, Jack calls Sousza in and tells Peggy to take lunch orders. Peggy goes to the lab and takes scientist Alex Dubin's lunch order. As he shows her some of the equipment they recovered from the ship, Peggy takes photos, throws the camera pen, and quickly leaves. And at the docks, Sousza is lifting fingerprints from the phone when he sees two bums playing cards. He comes over, pays them a nickel for what they know, and one of them, Frank, angrily says that he doesn't talk to cops and takes a swing at Daniel. Daniel knocks him down and he handcuffs him, and the smugglers report to Mink and tell them that Jarvis brought a girl and 5 or 6 women to beat them up, and Mink kills one of them, and the other one says that Howard called the woman Peggy. His employer kills him anyway, saying that he'll take care of Howard and Peggy, and Peggy returns to her apartment, and Howard emerges from a neighboring room belonging to Helen. Daniel brings Frank, and the agents sarcastically applaud. Jack wonders what he's doing. Frank says the bum may have seen something at the wharf, and Peggy develops the film just as Angie knocks to the door, who we can see is trying to get, close with Peggy and trying to be friends with her, which I like seeing. I like seeing this friendship between the two of them, but of course Angie has no idea about any of this. So Howard says that Peggy should go, and he'll look through the rest of the photos and ask her to bring something back for him. And Sousza talks to Frank, pointing out that they're fellow soldiers. He talks about how everybody applauded when he went to a diner, and they did it because they felt guilty he had lost his leg. And I like seeing that scene. I thought that was a well-done scene. I definitely enjoyed that, and I thought that was very well done. I thought that was a very well-done scene. I really enjoyed that. And, I mean, Daniel, Sousza, you can definitely tell, has been kind of, treated specially for a lot of his life because he's lost his leg, and they don't really treat him like a normal person. They treat him like someone who lost his leg. I mean, they treat him like he's really suffering, and he doesn't really like to be treated that way. I like seeing the episode portray that because I really like Sousa's character. I think he's a very good character. He's good for Peggy. He cares about Peggy. He genuinely wants to help out Peggy. And you can see that Sousa's going through a big conflict here, and I like seeing that. So Sousza assures Frank that nobody cares about either one of them, and Frank talks about how he lost his wife and his job. He still refused to talk to cops. Sousza goes outside where Jack is watching and insists that Frank is a witness. He's sure that Frank saw something, and Jack considers. Because, of course, they're still trying to figure out who killed, who was the one that killed. I can't remember his name now, but they're still trying to figure out, who killed the guy that was killed in the third episode. I can't remember his name now. What was his name? Let me look it up. What was his name? I know what I'm talking about. I just can't remember his name. I can't remember his name, guys. I don't know why. I'm blanking on his name. I'm going to my episode 3 review. Guys, if I sound hoarse, it's because I'm getting over a cold, just so you guys know. I'm just saying that. If I sound hoarse, I'm getting over a cold. So, yeah. Okay. Ray. They're still trying to figure out who killed Ray, and I like seeing that in this episode. I thought that was definitely very well done. And basically, they suspect that, he suspects that Jack could be, the person that could be doing this. So Peggy arrives at work, and basically, wait, where what? Now I can remember where I was. I lost my place. I can't remember where I was, guys. Okay, so yeah, as I said, they're trying to find the killers, and they're trying to figure out what happened there, and basically everyone's a suspect, they think that he could possibly be a suspect, and I like seeing that. So at the diner, Peggy slips food into her sweater, and Angie assures her that they all do it. When the agent goes back to her room, Howard tells her that all of his inventions are at the SSR lab, and she needs to steal one back. All of them are inactive, but one of the Blitzkrieg bomb, that's why this episode's called the Blitzkrieg bomb, shuts off all the lights in the city. However, he never figured out a way to undo the effects, and Howard is a mock-up and needs Peggy to substitute before someone pushes the button and shuts down New York. And as Peggy meets Jarvis downstairs, they drive away, unaware that Mink is following them. And Daniel is continuing questioning Frank because he's on, Sousza's pretty much on to Frank at this point. He thinks that Frank could be a possible suspect. Jack comes in with food and scotch, and Frank perks up at the sight of the food, and Jack offers it to Frank in return for information. The bum immediately says that there was a fancy dressed man with a woman who got on and off the boat before the police arrives. He doesn't recognize the disguised Peggy from the club photo, and says that the woman had dark hair, and I like that, that, of course, Peggy's undercover, and I like that they're mentioning that because I'm pretty sure soon they're going to figure out, what's going on with Peggy and that she's undercover and things like that. I definitely feel like that's going to happen very soon. Jack gives him the scotch and leaves, and at Nuremberg prison in Germany, Roger enters Muller's cell as they prepare to hang him, and Roger offers to help him escape if he tells him what happened at Finot. And as they drive to SSR, Peggy realizes that Jarvis is nervous. She wonders if Howard is planning to use the button himself, and Jarvis insists that he isn't as he tugs nervously at his ear. And I don't really trust Jarvis, though, because as we know, those two are working together. Jarvis and Howard are working together, and we know that there's something else going on there. And I still kind of feel like it's a setup. I feel like they're setting Peggy up for something else, and I don't know what it is, but I just feel like it's a setup because it just does not seem legit to me. Because of what happened in, episode 2, I've always been very suspicious of them. This episode increased my suspicions of them. So really anything that Jarvis says about Howard, I don't really trust him. I'm just saying. So, as Roger makes conversation, he removes his wristwatch and opens a compartment to reveal a cyanide capsule, and he tells Muller that the Nazi can have a painless death in return for information, and Muller says that there was no battle of Finot. When he and his men got there, they found bodies pulled high and ripped apart, but Roger isn't convinced, but Muller assures him that if he had killed the Russians, then he'd take credit for it. The SSR head gives Muller the pill and leaves, and offers another breath mint pill to the guard, and in the interrogation room, Jack admits that Daniel found a witness. Peggy is passing outside as Jack says that during the war, he just did what he needs to be done. And he asked Sousza where he lost his leg. But, Sousza ducks the question and leaves. And I'm wondering why he doesn't really want to tell him. I think it's just because that Sousa's tired of people asking him. I mean, if you see someone that's handicapped or has some sort of disability, you always ask them, how'd this happen to you? Sousa's probably been asked that question all his life, and he's probably sick of people asking him, why'd you lose your leg? Because he just wants to be treated like a normal person. He doesn't want to be treated like he doesn't want any really special treatment or anything. He lost his leg. He still functions fine. He's still a normal human being. Treat him like one, honestly. I feel bad for Sousza because he doesn't want all this treatment, and they're giving him all this treatment that he really does not want. So I definitely do feel bad for him. So as Peggy was in the hallway, another agent comes out. She ducks in the interrogation room. Jack asks why she's working when she is hiding, when she is taking, when all she does is taking lunch orders. He notices that she's nervous and says that she's hiding something, and Jack is on her. Jack definitely can tell that Peggy's hiding something, and I really like that because I wanted people to be suspicious of her, and Jack's the first person that I think is clearly said, there's something going on with you, and he can clearly tell that there's someone else going on with her. So he knows that she's nervous, and Jack then says that no man will ever consider her an equal, and Peggy sarcastically says she can always come to him for the truth and walks out. Mink follows Jarvis and Peggy back to Griffin, spots a delivery man at his truck, and meanwhile, Peggy confronts Howard and demands to know what's in the vial. He finally tells her it's Steve Rogers' blood, and Peggy's freaking out about it. She punches him in the drawer because he betrayed her, and she feels completely betrayed, and he lied to her, and she helped him with all this stuff, and it's Steve Rogers' blood. I mean, that's the worst thing you could have said to her. So Mink enters the lobby with flowers and tells Miriam that they're there for Peggy and he's her boyfriend. And when Miriam starts to question him, Mink leaves. And that was pretty surprising when that happened. That was very interesting, and I don't know. That was weird. So Peggy's furious that Howard lied to her. Howard admits that he learned from an early age to lie to get what he wants. He was one of the lead scientists on Project Rebirth, and he got one vial. The government is almost there through their supply, and they won't give back the blood even if Peggy clears his name. Howard believes that the blood holds the cure to untold diseases. And when Peggy accuses him of planning to sell the cure, Howard's shocked, and Peggy says he always finds a way to make a buck. She made a pledge to be as honorable as Steve was, but she forgot that playing corporate spy, and Peggy goes out and tells Howard to be gone when she gets back, and she's just pissed at him. She wants nothing to do with him. Obviously, she wants nothing to do with him because, I mean, she's remembering Steve, and she's still trying to get over his death, and you gotta feel bad for her, definitely. So Mink climbs up the air shaft, approaches Peggy's apartment. Dottie comes out of her room. Mink draws his gun, telling her to go back to her room. Staring at the gun, Dottie says she wants it. Leaps forward, snaps Mink's neck in one perfect move. Mink is dead, and that was absolutely huge when that happened. I'm like, wow, Dottie is a very interesting character. And I found out something about Dottie. Dottie apparently is part of this thing called the Black Widow group. Now, Black Widow group, the Black Widow program, and when I heard that, it's basically the Soviet program that turned Natasha, Romanoff into the Black Widow. So, what I'm thinking is that Dottie was the first Black Widow. She was, and she was the original Black Widow, and Natasha is like the, I don't know if she's like related to her or something, but I could definitely see that could be actually a very good twist if Black Widow, Natasha is related to Dottie. But Dottie apparently is part of that, and I'm looking forward to see where they take that story, because that could be very interesting if that is true. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that, because that could be very, very cool, and I really do like that twist. I think that's actually a pretty awesome twist. I really, that was pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with that. So, on the street, Jarvis approaches Peggy as she goes to the SSR for lunch, and she asks if he knew what was in the vial. Jarvis says that he and Howard both respect her, but Peggy is unimpressed. She really does not trust him, and she shouldn't, because obviously I knew they were hiding something, and they were. And once she moves on, Jarvis approaches the shoe shine stand and sits down next to Howard. He tells his employer that he's tired of apologizing for him. The whole thing stinks. And at SSR, Peggy hands out the lunches while Sousza is studying the club photo of a mystery woman. He finally colors in the hair with a pencil. And meanwhile, Roger returns and tells Jack what Mueller told him and suggests that Brandis and Green took the identity of men who died there. And Jack found a plane that landed in an airfield near Fano the day after the supposed battle. Howard was on it and intrigued. Roger figures they've got a conspiracy. So they're thinking that Howard is the one that killed Ray. Now, it makes sense because Howard definitely seems very sneaky. Seems like he doesn't really tell people a lot. He seems like he's a very, sleeky, sly character. And if he is the one that did it, I think it could make a lot of sense. And it's going to be very interesting to see if it is really him. And I'm interested in seeing what definitely is going to happen there, because that could be a very interesting twist, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with that, because that could be very interesting. So, that night, Peggy returns to her room, turns on the radio to cover the noise. She then pounds on the wall, unaware that Mink's body is underneath the bed, and Roger looks over the board with photos from the club. Dottie's examining Mink's gun when Peggy's, knocking on the door, tells her it's dinner. And Dottie's got to hide this body now. She's killed Mink and no one else can find out about. So it's going to be interesting to see if she hides that body. Peggy puts the vial container in the hole she's found in the wall and then covers it up. Roger goes over the photos of Brandis. The typewriter starts typing on its own as it receives an incoming message. And that's how the episode ends. So, did Howard kill Ray? I could definitely see it being a possibility. I don't know if he did, but if he did, that could be a very interesting twist. Dottie, do you think that Dottie is related to Natasha in any way? I'm not going to say that she isn't, but that's going to be interesting to see. I'm interested in seeing how she's going to join the Black Widow program, if we're going to find out more about that, because I know they're going to reveal it in an upcoming episode. That's how I found out. I looked on comicbook.com and they talked about it, because I guess they in the interview or something, but how is she going to cover up Mink's death? She's going to have to cover this up as best as she can. We'll have to see what happens there. Jack, of course, is on to Peggy. He knows that she is hiding something, and I'm very worried for Peggy. I think that now that Jack's on to Peggy, things are not going to end up well for Peggy. I definitely feel like now that he's on to Peggy, that things are just going to get crazier for her now, because he doesn't trust her. He doesn't trust a word she's saying. He doesn't trust anything about her, and everything about her right now, she's a very suspicious suspect right now. So he does not, trust her at all. And it's understandable why, but he doesn't trust her. And it's going to be interesting to see if he does trust her, what happens there. Sousza, you got to feel bad for the guy, because he's been told his whole life, how'd you get this accident, how'd you get into that accident, and he's kind of tired of people saying that to him, and I really did feel bad for Sousza in this episode. I like what they did with his character, though. I mean, we're really caring about Sousza, and I really do like his character. Sousza, honestly, is probably going to end up becoming my favorite character. I'm already really liking his storyline. I think he's a very good character. However, who I think is probably going to be my favorite character is Dottie. I really like Dottie's character, and I love where they're taking her as well. Is Peggy going to find out about Dottie? Obviously, we know that Jarvis wants to start S.H.I.E.L.D., and he starts S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything along with Howard Stark. So, are they going to start S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything? I definitely feel like that's coming up, because we're at the half point of the season now. So, I definitely feel like that's going to start to come up now. We have 4 more episodes left. I'm very interested in seeing where they take these next 4 episodes. But that's in my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Overall, guys, this episode put me right back into the show. As I said, I was kind of losing interest, but this episode, I loved it. I thought it was by far the best episode of the season. And oh my god, guys, I can't wait for what my next review is. Finally, I can review this to you. Finally, my next review, I promise you guys, you're going to want to stick around for my next review. My review for Arrow will be up later. The recap, for whatever reason, is not up yet. But my next review, I cannot wait for. My next review will be for the season premiere of The Americans. Oh yeah, it's back. I can't wait to review it, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.